All right, can you see it on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Lesson 25. Now, we've got something, the terminology is new. Probably you hadn't used that terminology in your public school studies, but the pluperfect tense is nothing but the past tense. It's just past perfect. It's past perfect is all it is. And so it's called the pluperfect. And if you get into English grammar books, even Webster's Dictionary, Merriam-Webster's Dictionary will tell you pluperfect is past perfect. So it's used that way in some English grammar books. Usually they just call it the past perfect, however. Now, some of the Greek grammarians will call it past perfect. They won't call it pluperfect. So you'll see it both ways, but they're the same thing. Any comments? Pluperfect and past perfect are the same thing. Now, right here in John 7:20, we have a pluperfect. Right here, this is pluperfect. I'm going to give you, if you want to write them down, I'm going to give you about 8 or 9 more passages. We're going to look at another one in Romans 7 that are pluperfect. Now, there's a lot of pluperfects. There are only about 85 of them in the whole New Testament, but a bunch of them are in the book of John. But in John's writings, particularly in the book of John. So John used them a fair amount. They weren't used a lot in the Greek language, but John uses them a fair amount. So he's probably the biggest user of the pluperfect. We're going to look at several passages right quick. I'm going to give them to you, and we'll look at one of them, right? We won't look at all of them, but you can write these down. And of course, you can go back over this. You don't have to write them down. You can go back over this tape if you want video. John 1:31 is a pluperfect. John 9:22 is has a pluperfect in it. John 18:16 has a pluperfect. Luke 8:2 has a pluperfect. And also Luke 8:29 has a pluperfect. Acts 1:10 has a pluperfect, and Luke 4:41 has a pluperfect. Acts 9:21 has a pluperfect. So those are several of the pluperfects that we have. Any questions? Again, you can go back over this tape. If I went too rapidly, you can go back over the tape and pick them up again. All right. So I just put them in there for your study, and we're not going to look at them tonight. But they do have some pluperfects, and it kind of enriches the meaning of it when you see those pluperfects, okay? There's a Matthew 16. I thought I had that in there, but there's one in Matthew 16 as well, right? So let me see. Matthew, I'm sorry. There's one in Matthew 16. That's a future perfect. Okay, it's a future perfect in Matthew 16:19, which there's not very many future perfects. We're not going to cover them here, but I just will mention it. Matthew 16:19 has a future perfect in it. And that's important for explaining what's going on there, okay? And if I get the time to do it, I'm going to make up another lesson to add to this book, and it'll be on the future perfect, which will be a very short lesson. But we may spend one night on it later. But that's an iffy situation, okay? All right, so right here, upo, eleluthe, hey, hora, atu. And so right here, his hour, the hour of him has not come. Upo is not, that's an emphatic form of u. Of course, u means what?
Not.
Not or no, or not or no. Okay, so this is kind of more emphatic than u, but upo, and so it has not come. And it hasn't come yet at that time. It had not happened. And what we see here is that this also, when we get over here, I want you to see right here, in the lexicon and grammar notes that I sent to you, we have a section, and that'll be on page 351 in these notes. Okay. All right, it's 351. That's a bunch. I didn't know I had that many pages in those notes. All right. But what we have here is the pluperfect, and this is on page it's got a heading here, past perfect. And we'll look at some of these definitions of it, Dana and Maddie and some others, and kind of go through them a little bit. It's got some rich stuff, and these sections here, you'll notice here, it lists Acts 14:27, which I didn't give you, and Luke 16:20, which I didn't give you, John 9:22. I think I gave that to you. Down here we have some more listed. So we wind up with about 1/4 of them already listed in some of our notes or materials. Only 85 times in the New Testament. So right here we got some more information on the pluperfect. A lot of information explaining it in different terminology, different words, but saying essentially the same thing. So you can get into this and see the pluperfect, what it's all about. Okay. All right. Back to this now. So right here, here's pluperfect. Notice it has a reduplication because the perfect does, lelu. All right. And so this is leluthe, eleluthe. And so right here, there's your reduplication, like the perfect. But some of the pluperfects, a fair amount of them, will have an augment on the front of it, which tells you it's past tense. And the augment began to be dropped off. So right here, luo, they come down here, and here's luo. Sometimes it will have an augment. This is infinitive form. And there's your reduplication there and there, kappa, and then ein for an infinitive, and then the epsilon for the augment. Okay, there's your augment. Okay. Now let's go back. It's made up from the perfect stem, the fourth principal part. If the perfect has the kappa sign, the pluperfect will have it. But second perfects will have second pluperfects. All right. So they'll go together. If the kappa sign goes with the perfect form of that verb, then it's going to go with the pluperfect. If it doesn't, it won't be with it. That's what they're telling you. So the rules, the verbs that have the kappa in the perfect will have the kappa in the pluperfect. Any questions? And the ones that don't won't have it. Won't have it in the perfect, won't have it in the pluperfect. All right. The connecting vowel is epsilon iota A, and the endings are the secondary endings. In addition, the reduplication of the pluperfect has an augment, but this is usually dropped in the New Testament, so it's dropped probably more than half the time. The formation, so you'll see it sometimes with an augment, sometimes it won't. All right, so I'd kind of keep that in mind. Right here is the basic form of it from luo. Of course, they use luo as the pattern throughout the book. That's pretty standard in the Greek books. So right here, they have the augment in parentheses, with parentheses around it. And that indicates that it may or may not be there. Okay, it might be there and it might not. So that's what they're trying to indicate with the parentheses. So you're probably going to see it in this form right here. Lelucain. I had loosed, and we're going to come back to this now. I want you to see something about this, and he doesn't tell us exactly when you come down here. You get to the meaning of the pluperfect a little bit later. So we'll come down to it in a minute. We'll come into it, and I'll pull these other sources in when we do that. And so lelucase, leluke, lelucaiman, lelucaite, lelucason. All right. And this is they had loosed, you had loosed, we had loosed. Okay. Now, the infinitive doesn't have time in it, And so basically it's just the kind of action. So they don't have an infinitive for it because it would do the same thing as a perfect infinitive. Does that make sense? So there's no pluperfect infinitive for that reason. Any question? All right. They don't tell you this in the book. You just have to find this other places, but that's why. Okay. All right. Now, no questions? The second pluperfect. Now, since there's only 85 of them in the whole New Testament, I'm going to cover both of them here in this lesson. The pluperfects built on the second perfect stems. Like the perfects, they lack the kappa. So your second perfect doesn't have the kappa, and the second pluperfect won't have it. All right. So the second pluperfect right here, and this augment may or may not be present. Thane. Thane. Okay. So right here we have. Hold on a minute. Huh. There was an error in that had double reduplication, and they had it twice. That was a mistake. I was making sure I looked at that, and that can't be right. Okay, so I got it corrected. I'll have it corrected, and let me just do it right now in case I forget. All right, now there's no difference in meaning between the first and second pluperfect. Again, it's just form, and like there is in the first and second perfect, there's no difference. All right. The second pluperfect, I had come, the present stem of erchomai, they're going to use erchomai here, would be, and here's erchomai, eleuthane, I had gone. Right? And so right here, I had come, and eleuthane, I had gone. I had gone. Now we're going to have to look at it more carefully because it's got a real important little twist in the meaning of it. You've got to be very careful because it's what's true in the past, and it normally that means it's not true anymore. All right. So we're going to see this in the meaning in just a minute. That's very important. Eleuthane, and again, this is from erchomai. And so eleuthane, and so you can see the omen, eti, usi, and the son ending here. And so the first two kind of look like omen, eti, and o, ace, a. You can see the ends here, just like you had in this. So right up here, that's a little different, okay? So the pattern kind of fits. Eleuthane. And so I had gone, we had gone, they had gone. I had gone, you had gone, he had gone, we had gone, you had gone, they had gone, or come. And again, erchomai, you got to look in the context. It could be coming or going. That's a context. Any questions? All right.
Yes,
Again,
yes, sir.
go ahead.
If I may, you made the comment that there's a twist, that what's true in the past but not true anymore. Could you expound on that a little bit more?
That's the next thing I want to do.
Okay.
Thank you for
All right,
asking.
thank you.
We're about to get into that. That's very important. I said 85 times. It occurs 86 times. Okay. Pluperfect tense expresses a state of condition following a completed act in the past. The completion is affirmed up to the point in the past. Now, he doesn't tell you this, so I'm going to go over to other sources to pick this up, okay? All right. All right, now. See, Dan and Maddie don't tell you this. They tell you about the same thing here. All right, it's completed up to some point of time in the past. Now here's another source. This would be Moulton and Turner. The tense was never very frequent in the classical period, much less so in Latin or English. And in the Ptolemaic period, papyri, it shrank to an inconsiderable amount of verbs and was restricted largely to epistolary style. All right. So it's in the New Testament, and right here he doesn't tell us. All right. Now, Bon and Gideon, the pluperfect found only infrequently. It is the perfect tense what the imperfect is to the present. That is to say, it's not auxiliary to the perfect, differing from it only in a matter of time. The perfect represents completed state of the standpoint of the present time. The pluperfect represents completed state of condition from the standpoint of the past. All right. Now then, from this, it may be seen that there is a pluperfect double emphasis, a past state resulting from previous action. And its uses are the same as the principal use of the perfect. All right. All right, now here's another one down here. This is Robertson and Davis, A.T. Robertson. All right. Let me scan through this and see what I want you to see. You can read this yourself. All right, the past perfect, he calls it the past perfect. And so he says it emphasizes completion in past time, like sticking a stake in the past and marking the completion up to that point. So it was completed up to that point, and it may not continue on after that point. Okay. Naturally, the Greeks do not often care to do that, though it can be done and sometimes done by past perfect. Right. Right. Here's another one, Mool. It's past action and complete the point of time complete for right now from that past time it was complete. Here's a quick summary about 9. Now there's one that tells us that one of these sources tells us that the presumption is that once it was finished in the past, it's not true anymore. Okay. All right. I didn't find one. I should have marked it. All right. Right here. The main difference between the perfect and pluperfect relates to time. The perfect typically indicates present time of a past event, present state of a past event. From a perspective of the author, the pluperfect indicates past state of a past event. It's possible, however, that the results of the past action continue in the present, but such conclusions are reached from other features in the context and not from the tense. So the tense doesn't guarantee you that it's still happening. So your pluperfect tells you what was happening in the past, not necessarily what's happening now. Does that make a difference? Any questions? So
can you illustrate in the English, please?
Well, I'm going to illustrate with Romans 7.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's one there that really is, I think, critical, important to understanding Romans 7. Okay.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Let's go over to Romans 7, and I have it here. Romans 7, verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Howbeit I had not known sin except through the law, for I had not known coveting except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. The word known is pluperfect. All right. So right here, except through the law. See, for I had not known. And so right here, known is idain. And if we go back over, you can see this first person singular pluperfect. Now let's look at our form. First person singular pluperfect. See the ain ending? Right there. This is from oida. See your ain ending up here too. And that looks like an infinitive, but it's actually pluperfect. You can mistake that for an infinitive if you weren't careful. So let's go back over here now. It's first person singular pluperfect from oida. Now, oida is the form of oida. It's an odd form, but it's perfect by nature. It's a perfect form, which an oida is perfect in form. So it's a perfect. I had known, and I still know. In other words, I know. I learned in the past, and I still know. But right here, what he's saying is, I had this knowledge in the past. I came to this knowledge at some time in the past. And so this knowledge, or that is, I did not know this in the past. Say, I didn't know that coveting was a sin in the past. And so that's negative, it's negated. And I came to knowledge. He's not telling you that he did come to knowledge in the past, but the implication is that at some time he didn't know coveting was a sin. Now, this has to be either him as a child, or it has to be, and it's, I believe, what he's doing, and I think the context bears it out, he's personating or putting himself in the place of a Jew or one of the children of Israel before the Decalogue, before the Ten Commandments were given, before the law of Moses was given at Mount Sinai, before he learned it. So I don't find coveting mentioned before that in the scriptures. Right? So here, God revealed that coveting was a sin. You hear people say things like, well, it's all right for me to want it as long as I don't steal it from them, and they're talking about lusting for it or coveting what the other person has. You'll hear people talk that way as if they don't think there's anything wrong with it. And they don't, because they haven't learned the Bible, because you have to learn that from the Bible. At the sins of the heart, and there are sins in the heart. And that was revealed at Sinai, I'm convinced. That's what he's telling us. Other comments about that? So I think he's personating the Jews. Now, that's a figure of speech where he put himself in the place of a Jew before the law was given. So what's one value of the law? Well, it told me that coveting is wrong. I learned that from the law. Any comments? Does that help out, James?
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
That confuse matters. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's go back over here. These other passages, you can see it in those passages as well. But you're pluperfect. All right. Now come down here. He tells us it's a state or condition following a completed act in the past. And the completion is affirmed up to the point in the past. I had known this, and I had not known this, Paul is saying, that coveting was a sin, but I came to know it. He's, by implication, at some time in the past, he did come to know that it was a sin. And he looks at it in that context, it's out of the law of Moses. So he didn't know it until the law was given. Or we could be arguing that it was when he was a child, he didn't know it, didn't understand it. And he learned it from the law. Now, that's one interpretation of chapter 7. I take the position that he's personating or taking the place of a Jew and showing what they were, how their situation or state was before they got the law of Moses. They were under the patriarchal law, and they didn't understand this at that point. I think at some time, however, he revealed it to the patriarchs later. I contend he probably revealed to the patriarchs about the time he gave the law of Moses to the Jews, to the children of Israel. But that's another question, another subject for another time, right? It's not common as the perfect. It's found 86 times. I told you 85 a while ago, but I added this into the book. So this is in your book, in the new printing of your book, right? It's found sometime in indirect discourse. And the pluperfect of the English will be represented by the perfect in the Greek, okay? Now, the pluperfect can be intensive. For instance, we may have I know, oida is used in the pluperfect several times. And I showed you the one over here. Let's go back to it. Oida. And here the pluperfect from oida was idain. Idain. And that's found more than once, okay, in the New Testament, the pluperfect. So it's found several times. And so oida gets the pluperfect several times. There's only about 10 or 15 verbs that have the pluperfect in the New Testament. I think I saw how many there were, and I forgot to write it down. Not very many, 15 or 20, and that's it. Well, it's only found 86 times. It can't be more than 86 verbs, can it? Okay. But oida is found several times, so that makes less than 86. So I think it's sometime around 15 or 20 that it's only different verbs where it's found. All right. And right here, he will tell you that oida, I know we just saw it, poitha, this from patho, and this is I am persuaded, or I am confident. I became confident in the past, see. So this would be something that I learned this in the past. I gained this confidence in the past. Not that, and he's not necessarily saying, guaranteeing that he knows it now or is confident now, although he could be, and that would be a contextual problem. But it wouldn't guarantee that he's confident any longer. Does that make sense? That'd be the difference in the perfect. He came to this confidence in the past, and he's not guaranteeing that he's still confident, although it could be. So it doesn't give you the guarantee of it. Right? So that's a little subtlety there between that and the perfect. It's completed in the past. And this is from I am dead. Tethanaka. And so I am dead. Tethanaka. And so I died in the past, and I'm still dead. Okay. Well, I don't know. Lazarus could have said that, and he wouldn't be dead anymore after Jesus raised him. Wouldn't that be right? Okay. Lazarus could have used it, and it would have meant that he doesn't necessarily mean he's still dead. So if he'd been resurrected, as raised from the dead as Jesus did, I stand. And again, I stood in the past. I stood, and it might be he's not standing anymore. Okay, all right. So the word "stand" could be a physical standing or the position one holds on something. I used to hold this position, but now I hold another position. And we have the pluperfect of such verbs that would be expected are imperfects in meaning. And so he says the meaning of it is really like an imperfect, because it was true in the past. It was being true over a period of time. And it's not exactly the same as an imperfect, though, because it doesn't guarantee you're still in the state of knowing it or having it. It generally is overlaps almost 100%, but not exactly with the imperfect. Okay, it's pretty close to 100% overlap, though. Right? The difference would be that it's not guaranteed it's durative action. It could have been this way and then ceased to be, and it might not have been linear. So the imperfect could have been just a point act, but it's probably linear most of the time. It will be. As of course, the imperfect is linear durative action. Questions? Oida is one of your words that's used several times, and so they pick on that word because it's used so many times. It's used several times. Of the 86 times, it's a bunch of them are in oida, and it fits quite well. I came to know it sometime in the past. I came to this knowledge. He's not guaranteed that he still knows, although the context usually shows he does. Okay? But the difference then, since if he would use this rather than the perfect, is he's stressing the knowledge he came to in the past time and not necessarily wanting you to realize that he still knows this. So I came to know this in the past, and you'll have to look in the context see if he still knows it. Okay, and so Idane, Idace, Iday, and so Ace A, you got the Ace A ending. Omen, and it's a daemon, and it's like omen. And then ete, omen ete usi. So we have a day, a date, and so the ete, just like the ete ending. So these two and these two here, pretty much like present, first person, second and third person singular, and first and second person plural, are pretty much like the present tense endings. Ace A are the same. Amen instead of omen, ete instead of ete, but those two look the same, and you probably won't miss those. These down here are a little different, and up here this is different. Those are the two that are different. Again, there is no infinitive because the perfect infinitive would do the same job. Right? Any comments? All right. All right. Again, there's only 86 of them in the New Testament. And we have Mark 10:1 will be another passage that probably has it. And so what we have here, Iothan, Mark 10:1, Tekasin, and Egnogatin, Kate, and then Matthew 12:7. Right? Any questions? In section 194, we have vocabulary. And right here, these are new words for us. Some of these we may have already had before, and they kind of look like they are. Adane, they have it down here in the pluperfect form, singular. And it's because it's so many times in the New Testament. So they actually put it in your vocabulary because you're going to run into that several times. That's a fair portion of your pluperfect will be that word right there. And that'll be that word from oida, of course. I know, which is really perfect tense word itself. Ana korao. And there's your preposition ana korao is to depart or withdraw or separate oneself, right? So you depart or separate, and so you depart or withdraw from, okay? And of course, gnosko is I know, and it's elementary knowledge, like milk of the word, and epi is upon. So epignosko would be knowledge upon knowledge. It's to fully know, to fully recognize. I can't remember whether it's first or second Peter, but one of those books has the word translated know several times, and sometimes it's epignosko or the noun form epignosis, and other times it's gnosko or gnosis. And so you got to look at the Greek, and he's contrasting elementary to fuller knowledge. And we just miss it in our English translation. Okay, that'd be something you could point out to people. I would suggest that if you take people and get them to buy an analytical concordance like Strong's and teach them how to use it and show them that they can see that the words are different sometimes. This helps them to interpret and makes them where they're capable of doing it themselves. And so what you're doing is they don't have to take your word for it. They can look it up themselves and you show them how to do it. And so they can see that gnosko and epignosko are different words. And epi is a fuller knowledge. Okay? And so that could be rich for them, and they don't have to know any Greek. They can just do a lot of that stuff themselves. Again, Strong's is very valuable. I think it's a very valuable book to have. Questions or comments? All right, Ireka. Again, this is pluperfect, and I have spoken, and so you're perfect. Arrow. I shall speak. That's from Lego. Okay, Remember, it's got the odd form like go in, gone in English. A day, we've already had that. That's already a dane. We just dealt with it, and that's pluperfect autopsia, and autopsia is vision, all right? Piazzo is I sees. We may have already had that word too. All right. Nigh is yea. Yea is an emphatic form of yea. Osea, evening. Syntithemy. That's tithemy, to place or set, S-E-T, and soon is with, okay? All right. Sort of placed together or to agree. Peiron is beyond. And so Jesus was teaching, or someone was doing something beyond the Jordan. And so that's usually to the east, right? Although that's not the word for east. Anatolia is the word for east, okay? But in Palestine or in Canaan, in the land of where Jesus was, and then to the east, beyond is like in English, up is north and down is south and out is west and over is east. Those are your prepositions. A lot of people don't use them right, but that's what they're supposed to do. Supposed to indicate. And so right here beyond would be to the east as an adverb. Scotia is darkness. Hosts, we've had that before, when or as. So it's like as. And parapluo. And what is, just thinking, they have a sail like an airplane that people get in the paragliders. They call them paragliders. And parapluo is to sail by. This is beside or by para. And this is the word for sailing. All right. Any questions?
Just a comment. The previous word we had for seas was krateo.
Yes. So there's a subtle difference. We'd have to study those some more to get the differences. I'm sorry I can't help you what the differences are there. I apologize. I should have looked those up.
No problem. I can look it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go back over now. We're down to about 7 or 8 minutes. I'm going to go back over to this right here, the pluperfect. Let's see. Let's look at months or mounts. He talks about it, and I should mention it called the pluperfect does not occur. Okay. Some books don't even cover it. He tells us there are 28 verbs that appear in the pluperfect 86 times. So we have 28 verbs. That's all. Only 28. And oida in the pluperfect occurs several times. So if you have 28 and only 86 times, you've got roughly about 4 times each on average, 3.5 times each, right? The pluperfect is used to describe an action that it was completed and whose effects are felt at the time after the completion, but before the time of the speaker. So they were felt after the completion. Let's pick up and go to one of these other verses that we looked at, and we'll look at these from our New Testament. So let's pick up John 1:31. Is that all right? And we'll look at it in the Greek New Testament. John 1:31. I didn't.
You said there was a source which listed all the uses of the pluperfect.
Yeah.
Which do you recall which one was the source for that?
Well, the grammar books do. Dana and Mandy list the uses. There's the intensive pluperfect, and it's used also consummated. It indicate a process is completed, consumed, or consummated, or fully consummated. Those are the two usages that he gives. and one is going to be to intensify, and the other is something that's consummated and it's happened and it's done. It's over with. Okay.
Okay,
Those are
thank
the
you.
two. Those are the two uses that are given by your grammarians most of the time. They categorize them in those two categories, right? And we're going to go to John 131. Let me make this bigger so we can see it on the screen. All right. I'm going to look at the Greek New Testament. We won't worry about the textual variants. There's Idain. That is pluperfect right there. Now let's go back and see what it is in the English text. Let's look at it. All right. And I was knowing him. Okay, Aton. But in order that, and this is, we haven't had this yet. This is your subjunctive mood. Might be manifested to Israel through this, and there's Samarica might come in the who got is water, baptized. I baptize in water. Okay, let's read it from our English text now. And I knew him not. See now, John is saying I didn't know him. He's not saying I don't know him now. And I think this is important that we keep this in mind. I knew him not. And I was not knowing him in the past. He's not guaranteeing that he didn't know him then. People interpret it like he meant that I didn't know him then. See, I don't think he's saying that. By using the pluperfect, he's not guaranteeing us he didn't know him at this time, but that he should be made manifest to Israel. For this cause came out baptizing in water. All right. So right here, this is critical. It helps us to see John is not saying I don't know him now. He said in the past I didn't know him. See, I didn't know him in the past. I hadn't come to know him in the past. But at this point, he is knowing him. So he is telling us that after me cometh a man, verse 30, for he was before me. So he's already learned this. Is he just revealed this right now? I don't think so, because he used the pluperfect here rather than the perfect. If he'd used the perfect, he said, I didn't know him, and I still don't know him. But by using the pluperfect, he said, I didn't know him in the past, not guaranteeing that he doesn't know him now. See, that's the subtle difference. Everyone see the difference there? That help?
Yes, sir.
And we could go to some other passages and look at them, but we're just about out of time. We're down to about 3 minutes. We could take John 9:22. Let's see if we can pick it right quick. Kind of see how this works. All right. All right. These things said his parents because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed if any man should confess him to be Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. I don't know which one of these is imperfect and the pluperfect, but we're about out of time. But it's there in this, what I say, John 9:22 or 9:21. Yeah, 9:22. All right, let's look at it. See if I can catch it right quick. The pluperfect. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Yes, I don't see which one. Okay,
It's not going to.
I'm not seeing it right quick on the surface. I'll have to pick it up. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't catch it right quick. All right, but it's supposed to be in John 9:22, unless I wrote it down wrong. All right, and John 18:16 as well. Let's see right quick. All right. All right. So we have the pluperfect several times. We'll just stop there. I'm sorry, I'm getting embarrassed here now. Okay. Any questions? All right. Now next week we'll come in and do this translation. We'll start on our translation here. And I've looked through this and I can't find any mistakes in it, but I'll go back through it one more time before class, making sure there are no errors to be corrected. All right. Are there questions? All right. All right.